am back with another Transits Fridays. So let's have a look at what the astrological planetary movements are doing from Friday today, the 27th of June. So the last Friday of June until next Friday, which will be July already. I can't believe it. Can you believe like how quick this year is going? Like, I don't know, is it something about becoming older and time just flying, or is it something legit? I'm not sure. So let me share my screen. This is an interesting week, really. We are just coming out of a new moon. So just coming out, my cat was just meowing. We're coming out of a new moon. And I think one of the major things that will be happening. So the energy is beginning to pick up, etc. But I think the key planet for this week is Mercury. So it's a lot about communication, it's a lot about thought processing, ideas, etc. That will be really under the spotlight this week. And this is because we had today Mercury shifting to Leo. So that's an important shift. Mercury moving to another sign. So we're kind of stepping away from that Cancerian season of Mercury, really, and where we were a little bit more intuitive, a little bit more emotional when it came to thinking, communicating, expressing ideas, etc. And stepping into fire fixed Leo, which is all about self-expression, creativity, and thinking about our individual authenticity. I think there's a lot about that. Oh, here's Endora again. Hello, everyone. Lie down there, my darling. She just tried to jump on the table. So, Leo, that authenticity, that sense of specialness. But obviously, it's not just about Mercury moving to Leo. It is also about Mercury opposing Pluto. So we've got Mercury, Pluto coming to oppose each other. So potentially power struggles where it comes to communication, sharing our thoughts, sharing our ideas, but also a potential conflict here between individuality, between being who we are, expressing, having fun, doing sort of the Leo side of the axis, and the community, the group, or transforming the group, being an agent of transformation. How much is the balance there between becoming fully affected and enraged by the collective reality, in the world and the wars and all the things that really are connected to Aquarius and our collective experience in this reality, versus being who you are and focusing on that and healing that sense of individuality at the same time. How much, of our individuality needs to be forsaken for collective groups, or how much it is naturally um um you know merged into the collective movements and reality, really. I mean, I think there's a lot of that with that Mercury opposition to Pluto, and it might come out in different ways to each one of us individually here, and how much, those signs are present in our birth charts as well. Mercury will also immediately form trines to Saturn and Neptune, and Saturn and Neptune is also sextile to Pluto. So that Saturn Neptune in Aries is really giving the key to work with that power struggle, to work with that conflicting energy. And I think Saturn Neptune in Aries is pointing out to a new way, a new um a new sense of individuality. I think, is turning the hero's journey into a spiritual journey, and also crystallizing that sense of individuality as well. There's a kind of a bridge here between the need that Saturn has to crystallize, to make something serious, to master something, to turn something into reality, and the dreams and the longings and the transcendence that Neptune is also talking about. And both of them in Aries, which is the most individualistic of all the star signs. So there's something about that, about healing the warrior, healing that um sense of individuality that's also part of the process here with whatever it is that we're facing on the intellectual level, on the communication level, right? With a Mercury and Leo opposite Aquarius. Now, it's also interesting, and that's something that is really part of this week, and I think why I said um, that Mercury is so much under the spotlight here is because Mercury will enter its shadow phase on Monday, the 30th of June. So Mercury is a 4 degrees Leo shadow point here because it will go back to 4 degrees. Is at 4 degrees that Mercury is going to be stationing in August, turning direct because Mercury is going to turn retrograde in July. So we're kind of approaching that phase, approaching that time. And it will be a lot of that rethinking, reassessing, re-editing, etc., all connected to Leo and the Leo portion of our birth charts, where we want to be individuals, where we want to be recognized, where we want to be authentic as well. So there's a lot of that that we're exploring now that will come back to us at a later stage, and potentially some of the challenges of that Mercury Pluto opposition. Also, the fact that Mercury rules the South Node at the moment, rules Mars as well at the moment. So it is talking about some of the old tendencies, some of the old ways of doing things as well that we're um becoming aware of, that's coming to our conscience, like with Mercury, that's coming to our minds, to our thoughts, to the ways that we, our choice of words and all of that. So be aware of what's happening around Monday and Tuesday because of its shadow phase, because we will go back to these things that will be happening or that will be around us Monday and Tuesday this week. And that's why I think it's such a powerful mercurial week because this is all very much under the spotlight. It is also first quarter of the moon, which will be happening on Wednesday at 11 degrees Cancer and Libra. And a first quarter is kind of taking action from the new moon, isn't it? It's like the next stage of that new moon. So Wednesday, the 2nd of July, we're sort of taking another step and continuing further on developing those intentions that we were setting connected to the moon, Jupiter, new moon in Cancer. So that's something heads up for this week. That's like the continuation, the next step, step forward, as my software is saying, connected to that placement. And obviously here Mercury is opposite Pluto throughout the week. It, might perfect earlier in the week, but the energy is going to be there and we're going to be feeling it and dealing with it. And one more energy here that comes up on Thursday, just before Venus moves on to Gemini, is Venus conjoined Uranus. So we're going to have Venus approaching Uranus, conjoining it. And again, there is another big pointing towards individuality, finding our space, um, our own individual values within relationships, not being scared of like voicing it up and expressing ourselves, rather than just following and doing because that's what someone else expects us to be doing. So there's something about that fierce individuality that Venus Uranus can be pointing out. And a need for personal space, potentially, a need for relationships that are outside the box as well, radical self-worth. Uranus and Venus there in Taurus as well, valuing yourselves. And that's an opportunity right there. And that's really it. Friday is when Venus shifts to Gemini. But we'll talk about that next Friday because it's also next week when we're going to have Uranus moving to Gemini as well. That's super important. That'll be happening on the Monday, the 7th of July. So we'll get there. We'll talk about that. I won't be talking about it now, but it really feels like this week is a lot about preparation for this big sort of transitional shift of energy that we're going to be experiencing in July, including the retrograde planets as well. So look after your minds this week. Be mindful of your thoughts, of your words that you're choosing, of how where you are, of your personal, individual needs for self-expression versus what the community needs as well. How can you contribute individually, authentically to the greater good? It's not all about self-indulgence, but it's also not all about just the collective. So, how can we play our role in the most authentic way possible and keep the balance between these two tendencies, right? When there is an opposition. So, that's what the homework for this week is. And that's it. I hope you have a wonderful week. Let me know in the comments how you're doing. What are you up to? What are you expecting from these transits? And if you want me to speak about anything in specific as well, I'm still trying to get back to my YouTube and to do videos, but we'll get there slowly, baby steps. So that's it. I'll be seeing you all next week. Take care, be kind to each other, and big kiss. I'll see you soon.